Today's conversation is one of those raw, real, and transformative stories that reminds us why we do this show. My guest today is Keegan, the founder of MindfulMEDS, a company on a mission to revolutionize mental wellness through natural plant-based medicine. But his story didn't start in a lab or a boardroom. It started in the depths of a 9-year alcohol addiction, battling depression and anxiety. What saved him? An unexpected intervention, a life-changing diagnosis, and ultimately mushrooms. Not the kind you cook with, but medicinal mushrooms that helped him heal from the inside out. Today, he's turning his pain into purpose, creating what he calls the safest, highest vibrational mushroom medicine in the world. If you've ever struggled with anxiety, depression, addiction, or just feeling stuck, this conversation is for you. Let's get into it. You're listening to the Soul Aligned Self-Care Podcast. I'm your host, Tina Stinson, and I had a stroke at the age of 39 from stress and burnout that shook my world. Now I'm laying it all out, the deep level self-care practices and mindset shifts that I needed that kept me healthy, balanced, and thriving. Join me in this intimate space as we explore healing, resilience, and the soul's journey to alignment. This is where real conversations about deep-level self-care happen. Let's get into it. Hello, Keegan. Welcome to the Soul Aligned Self-Care Podcast. It's so nice to have you here today. We finally managed to get together.
Yes, I was saying just before we popped on that I feel like I know you, but it's just because you moved this once, I moved this once, and then I screwed up on the time, and here we are.
Yeah.
And what I find cool about your podcast is that we actually don't know one another. There's been no pre-prep. You didn't
hmm
send me a list of questions.
Yeah.
And so if your community just likes raw and authentic and organic conversations, one of two things is going to happen here. I'm going to fall flat on my face, and you guys will love that. Or this is could also potentially be the greatest podcast I've ever recorded because it's just going to be straight from the heart.
Yeah, I don't like to really control things, and I like letting things kind of go where they're going to go. And so I don't think anyone will fall on their face if they're talking about something that they're passionate about. So
For sure.
let's start with that. I would like you to tell people a little bit about who you are, but then I would like you to talk about your journey because I think it's so important to share with people where
Yeah,
you are now and where you came from so that they could feel, kind of something to relate to in their own lives.
sure. Um, yeah, so basically what I do is I'm the founder of a company called Mindful Meds. And since 2019, we've really been on this path to develop what I consider to be kind of the safest, the most consistent, and the highest vibrational frequency mushroom medicine that you can find anywhere in the world. And it's always interesting to share a bit of my story because, really what led me here was I would say is slightly unique. And so if you bear with me and let me share a few things about, I guess, my
Absolutely.
childhood, just like all of our stories,
hmm
it all starts in childhood. And, for me, I had a really cool kind of different upbringing in the sense that my mom and dad got divorced when I was 5 or separated. And at 5 is when I went into grade 1. So I had one of those weird birthdays where I was actually the youngest
hmm
kid in my class. And my dad decided to go back to the UK and essentially abandoned my sister and I here in Canada, went back to the UK and started another family. And so from the time I was in grade 1 until the year after high school, my sister and I spent every single summer in the UK, every single one, never missed a single one. So
Wow.
yeah, it was unique in that sense. And I can look at it today in a healed way and just be so grateful for it all. But I know as a kid, it was really challenging because my dad, um, he was an incredible man. He had his master's in psychology. He was building social programs for the underdog, people with depression and anxiety and addiction. And but the truth is my dad had his own shit. He was a runaway. He was the oldest of six, ran away from home and lived on the streets of London when he was 14 years old. And a church group actually came and saved his life and brought him in and showed him love and so there's so many ways that we can start this off, but the reality is we had all this structure under my mom's roof. I'm sitting at my kitchen table having this podcast, and it's making me think of, when I lived with my mom and my stepdad, we had dinner on the table every single night, and they came and watched my baseball games, and there was so
Yeah.
much love and structure, and then we get on this plane and get to England, and life was so different. My dad was much more of kind of a friend, and he was adventurous and fun and, dangerous, and also had a bit of a temper, and he was a drinker. So he was an alcoholic and he drank every night. And so as kids, you develop um, this way of having to navigate this world by using your senses and intuition and make you could look and make eye contact and know, okay, dad's had a few drinks, we got to navigate it this way. And but it
Mm-hmm.
also was this really unique period because my best man at my wedding is from England,
Yeah.
and my five aunts, my dad's sisters, all lived in England. So I got a chance to know that side of the family, bond with my cousins, um, create incredible friendships because I went every year, and I had a
Mm-hmm.
place to kind of escape from some of all this. And any questions so far? Because that might give you an
Well,
idea of
I
where
feel
it goes
like
next.
it must have been, I'm not sure how like young you were when you started going to England, but I feel like it must have been very disruptive and scary for you at first to
Big
be
time.
thrown into that and to have to develop those survival skills that you didn't need over in the United Canada with your mother.
Canada. Yeah.
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 So I feel like that's probably it sounds like kind of wonderful and glorious in a couple of different ways, but I think it was probably quite traumatizing and scary for you when you were kids.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it was.
Yeah.
And I think a part of my journey was always having this almost inability to share the truth as to what was actually going on because my dad would always say when, something happened, oh my God, you cannot tell your mom this,
Yeah.
or I'm never
Yeah.
gonna see you again. And so to be honest, my sister and I have kept a lot that we've never shared.
Yeah.
But even, my own friends that I've grown up with, and I've been very blessed to have, for the most part, a lot of the same friends since I was, 11 years old. I'm 40 now. Um, but they don't really know about this side of my life.
Hmm.
And so maybe, maybe my mom will listen to this one day and she'll learn a few things. But the truth is, anybody that has a parent that has an addiction issue, I think the one thing that many of us have in common is this idea that I am never ever going to end up like that.
Yeah.
And that was certainly the way that I looked at life was I will never be my dad. And so I worked very hard from the ages of kind of 14 to 22 to develop this life that I was proud of and develop this person that I was proud of and but then one moment really shifted everything. And
Hmm.
I was in my third year of university and life was going. I mean, honestly, the trajectory of my life as a 22-year-old still to this day is something that I look back on and I just go, wow, I was so proud of where I was at. And I wouldn't have traded my life with anybody. I was blessed to have some pretty successful people around me, athletes, models, professional sports people, and but I really loved who I was, and I wouldn't have traded myself with anybody. But then I had one night that changed the trajectory of the next 9 years of my life, and I ended up cheating on my having a one night stand on my university girlfriend, my love at that time of my life. And and that made a huge impact on my life because I just really never saw myself as being that person, and always held myself in this, regard of, not ever being that type of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you go and you make this, you're big. I'm sure I'd made lots of mistakes leading up to that, but like this was the one mistake that kind of changed my life. And my remedy to hide from the pain that I was in, I kept it a secret for an entire year. So like I'm a Pisces. I'm not a huge kind of, horoscope guy, but I'm certainly a very sensitive person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I started to kind of sip some booze in the evenings, have a vodka or two, and then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, I'm sitting at the wood at the bar at the local pub while all my friends are freaking studying or playing squash or lifting weights. I'm at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And it started pretty innocently, but I very quickly developed I guess an addiction to alcohol. And I
Yeah.
think that's really what led me to this project in the end.
I do have a question, just out of
Sure.
curiosity. Looking back on it, you looking back on it today, would you say that you didn't have a chance because you had like an addictive personality? Or was it the circumstances that were weighing on you so much? Or a little bit of both?
Yeah. It is definitely both. I can
Mm-hmm.
tell you that generation upon generation upon generation of men in my
Mm-hmm.
family tree, all of them destroyed their lives from booze. And
Interesting.
so, when you look at the ingredients that create an addict, the science says that it is, X% is from your actual DNA, and the X% is from your own trauma and your own experiences. And my mixing bowl of life had a lot of both. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so I think it was inevitable that I would have struggled with addiction. I mean, looking back at my life as a 40-year-old, I've been addicted to something for almost my entire life.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I noticed that I shouldn't say I am a big runner because I haven't been running lately, but I've been a runner on and off my entire life. And once I started doing like distant trail running, what I ran into was a lot of the people that did distant trail running. And I don't want to put this label on everybody, but
sure.
a lot
Yeah,
of them were recovering addicts and replaced it with something positive like trail running. And I thought it was really interesting that that's the majority of the people that I was meeting. And it was kind of bizarre to me at the time, but it makes sense if you really think about it, because that's the way you have to be with that type of sport, you know?
sure.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it's, I think part of my challenge in life in general is that I have a really hard time with boredom. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the time with boredom leads to these darker places.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just natural, this how sensitive I am, and my boredom and things like that can lead. I just as of Monday, we're filming this or sharing this on the 5th of February, but on the 2nd was my 3 years with no booze. And
Congrats.
thank you. My story really begins, so essentially where it went from that moment of starting to drink. I had this job that I got hired for. So basically that happened at Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
the one night stand. In the previous summer, I got hired to go to New York City and basically run a sales team in New York as a
Okay.
23-year-old. So the time from December or January when this happened to the time that I got on this plane on May 1st, I had been drinking for about 100 consecutive days. So I
Wow.
showed up in New York City as a 23-year-old kid, a completely and utterly unrecognizable version of who they had hired the previous year. And
Interesting.
nobody knew except for me that I was an addict. And
Hmm.
I was at that time, I was still very good at being able um, to mask the addiction with humor and comedy and poking fun and I could hide it, but really internally I was falling apart. And my real story with depression and anxiety started in New York City.
Hmm.
I remember being on top of the building that we had an apartment in, and we somehow managed. I know you're from New York, is what you mentioned.
Yeah.
Um, but so we were in Long Island City, and the building that we were in, somehow we managed to figure out how to get to the rooftop of this building. And the way I remember it, it was 30 stories high.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, and we would go up and smoke cigars and drink champagne. Never once did the security or the concierge ever come up and bust us. I have no idea how that's possible, but it's the
Mm.
truth. But then one night I found myself up there on my own, and I'll never forget it. Leaning over, having my heels clicked up, looking down 30 floors to the cement, and there was a garbage strike in New York City that summer, so there was garbage all over the
Ah.
ground. And I was a microsecond away from just ending this entire journey and just getting out of here because I was in so much pain. And the only reason that I didn't was because my sister, who is still to this day one of the greatest heroes in my life, she's 13 months older than me. Um,
Wow.
she was getting married at the end of August, and this was July, and so I had decided that I was just gonna make it to Kaylee's wedding, say goodbye to everybody, and then I was gonna end it all. But I was gonna get there first, and I'm so glad I did because
Hmm.
I met my wife at my
Oh,
sister's wedding that
wow.
night. So yeah, so
That's cool.
I'll let you kind of pick at that if you'd like, and then I'll
Yeah,
share.
I have a
I'd love
couple
to
of
this
thoughts.
for sure.
I have to share with you, like when you were talking about going from Canada to, to your dad's, my first thought was about your mother.
Yeah,
As a woman with three kids
yeah,
and divorced, the weekends where my kids had to go to their father's, which wasn't pleasant. He wasn't a pleasant person.
yeah.
It was really, really unpleasant and painful. And my first thought was about your mother, how hard that must have been for her. I'm sure it was
Mhm.
probably nice for her to have some freedom every once in a while, but I feel like it was a lot harder than it was easy. And that was my first thought. It was about your mom. And I was like, oh God, I don't know if I could have survived that.
Yeah.
But going back to what you just talked about, and I want to thank you for sharing that's something so deeply personal with everybody because I feel like it's really important to share those kind of things because so many people have experienced that, but they don't talk about it and they don't want to talk about it. And so thank you for sharing that. And I am really glad that you're still here, obviously, and that you went to the wedding and you met your wife. Do you think that
Mhm.
it's kind of this almost like this cosmic thing with the universe where the universe was like, let's give him this, let's give him something, tangible that he could really, really bring himself back up for. Did it feel like that to you?
I think a message to anybody that might be in that mind frame, I think the lesson
Mm-hmm.
is just to hold on. I
Mm-hmm.
promise you things will get brighter. I promise you you're going to be able to get through this.
Mm-hmm.
And it just showed up in a way because we didn't end up getting married until, well, we got married in 2024. This was
Okay.
in 2008.
Okay.
So
Wow.
it was 14 years later. We've been together for 13 years. Um, but yeah, I think she's been a huge gift in my life. We're so different in the sense that her default setting when she wakes up in the morning is joy,
Mm-hmm.
and my default setting is not. It takes me a lot of work to get to a place to find joy, and it's something
Mm-hmm.
I'm constantly searching for. Um, but yeah, she certainly has been an angel in my life, and I don't think I'm alive today without her, to be totally honest.
Mm-hmm.
My addiction carried on from my sister's wedding all the way up until September of 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And so imagine I had already been drinking for 100 days, but then it went for another 8.5 years.
Wow.
And it just escalated to the point where I was the first person at the liquor store every single day at 9 o'clock in the morning. And if I didn't drink at certain intervals throughout the night, I'd go through withdrawal. So it was about as severe an alcohol addiction. I mean, I don't know if it could get any worse, to be honest. Like it was just as severe as it can possibly get, to the point where, I think the next step was death, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I ended up in the hospital, which is really where my intervention came from my mom and dad and Elisa, who's my wife. I ended up getting diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So my pancreas had
Really?
completely stopped producing insulin.
Wow.
And so I drank my way into type 1 diabetes.
That's
And
crazy. I didn't
yeah,
know that could happen.
yeah.
Wow.
And I don't think I did either.
Yeah.
And so, but it ended up being another one of those moments that was I can look back on, and it was a moment that actually saved my life. Without
Mm-hmm.
that diagnosis, there wouldn't have been an intervention. Without that diagnosis, my parents wouldn't have seen how severe this was, because I was the master of isolation.
Mm-hmm.
And I had become so good at just being able to come to family events, timing it perfectly between drinks and getting the hell out, and
Mm-hmm.
and not letting people see what was really happening. Although I think they had an idea. Like, I'm not trying to pretend like they didn't.
Yeah.
But that was the moment where they could stand next to me and shed some tears, and we could all cry together. And 30 days later, I went to one of what I consider to be the greatest blessings of my life, was the ability to go into rehab and start getting the help that I needed, and to start to heal the pieces of me that needed to be healed. And and really, I got out of rehab in October of 2016, and my journey out of rehab, my whole entire journey now is really wanting to help serve that community of people that I am a part of, the
Mm-hmm.
underdog, the people with depression and anxiety and addiction. That's who I relate to the most, and
Mm-hmm.
that's my place in the world, is being with those people, and now my role, at least I hope, is to help those people. And so,
Yeah.
my journey led to quite a successful business out of rehab. It took me a year to kind of get to that, to get my confidence back. Um, but then some things, start popping, and people want to work with you again, and you can start to show up in the world again. And I always had these entrepreneurial gifts, but I can never really execute the way that I ever wanted to, because I was a drunk. And
Mm-hmm.
but my clients had no idea I was even an alcoholic, just to give you an idea as to how good I was at masking it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, then I started to get really bad anxiety going into my office. And
Yeah.
I had been about 3.5 years without a drink. And but now I'm having anxiety attacks just going to work. And and so that's what led to me really wanting to explore, to try to find some answers to the anxiety and the panic attacks that I was having.
Mm-hmm.
And out of
What?
nowhere, I got introduced to a mycologist, which is a mushroom farmer. And
Yeah.
very quickly, um, things started to shift for me.
So yeah, I am so curious about this because I do know people that have been helped tremendously by mushrooms, and so I would love for you to like bring me into this slowly, like I'm somebody who knows nothing about it, which is
Sure.
pretty close to the truth. Like I don't know a
Yeah,
lot about
sure.
it,
Sure.
because I think that it's it's been helpful to a lot of people, and I feel like it's being suppressed a little bit.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if it probably has something to do with money. Obviously, it always does. But yeah, tell
sure.
me about your journey into it and what you experienced when you first started experimenting with that.
Yeah. So I ended up having these anxiety attacks. It was so bad that like now I'm starting to think, oh my God, I need to leave this business. And what was going on in my head was, is this a sign, a universal sign that I'm out of alignment? You know,
Mm-hmm.
am I not on the path that I was meant to be on is really what started to resonate for me. And for the first time in a long time, I found myself at home and I started to really go down this rabbit hole of the research that was available at the time. 2019 was a very different era for mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, unless you were a biohacker, you know, if we had a room of 100 people today and we asked all 100 people if they had microdosed in 2019, one of 100 would put their hand
Yeah.
up. It's becoming a lot more mainstream today, but I can share with you this. You know, I was blown away by the research that was available. So John Hopkins came out with some research really early on with psilocybin.
Mm-hmm.
And the two studies that really caught my attention were more, it wasn't microdosing, this is more the macrodosing. So when we're talking about
Okay.
microdosing, we're talking about a totally sub-perceptual, non-intoxicating. And
Okay.
when I say non, you know, sub-perceptual, this isn't going to make the colors change. This isn't
Yeah.
going to make the music dance. This is going to be something that, for the most part, you're not going to feel in your system.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk about that a little bit more because there is a bit of a range when it comes to dosing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and really, but I think, you know, why don't we just do it like a bit of a 101, like give you some information about what this is. So
Okay.
that's what microdosing is. The other side of mushrooms, and what generally happens for people is they'll begin as a microdoser,
Mm-hmm.
develop a relationship with the medicine, and then for a lot of people, that will eventually lead to, you know, what we call a macrodose or a hero's dose, or, you know, simply put, a big journey, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
where you transcend and this is where you are having a full-blown trip.
Mm-hmm.
And so the research that I was reading in the beginning was about having these guided, intentional, large doses. And one of them was for smoking cessation. So people that had been smoking for years and years and years went in with an intention to quit smoking.
Yeah.
And the you can just do a simple Google search for the John Hopkins University studies. Don't quote
Mm-hmm.
me on this. I'm just kind of paraphrasing.
Okay.
Um, but the numbers were insane. I believe it was 80% plus had quit smoking over a certain amount of time. But there was also one that really stood out to me, and it was very important because um, for anybody that's ever been around somebody that is about to pass away, this is a message for you because when I was 24 years old, my cousin, who's the same age, died of a brain tumor. And he
Mm-hmm.
called me, so this would have been 16 years ago. And I'm so blessed to been able to have a 3 hour phone call right before he passed. He passed a month or two after that call. But I remember the anxiety that he had about passing away and how scared he was. So the second big study that John Hopkins did that they published was on end of life cancer patient anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the participants, again, it was an 80 to 90% success rate, where on the other side of this very intentional guided journey, they weren't afraid to die anymore. They weren't
Mm-hmm.
afraid of what was next. And think about that for a moment. You know, all of us are going to face that moment, every single one
Mm-hmm.
of us. And it's not something we generally speak about. But,
Yeah.
you know, I how scary it must be on death's door and you having children and a family and a legacy and just not knowing what was going to happen. And then you live the last pocket of your life in fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Psilocybin mushrooms takes
Hmm.
that fear away for people. And I want to share a resource so that everybody can go and see this because there's a documentary. It's
Hmm.
called Dosed 2. The
Dosed.
first one is about ibogaine. The second one is about psilocybin. And they
Okay.
follow this woman. My imagining is she's probably in her 60s. She had adult children. She had never used
Hmm.
psilocybin before, but it was exactly this. She was on death's door, and she ended up exploring psilocybin, and it shows her journey with this. It is a
Hmm.
touching, touching documentary,
I have
and
to watch it.
it's
Yeah.
it is honestly it's incredible. This woman, she survived another 5 or 6 years after the this documentary. She has passed since. But she is somebody, those people that are just one of those rays of light.
Hmm.
And her journey is just so great to watch. And I think people will really enjoy it. I've been fascinated with the data, the research, and the studies.
Hmm.
And so, really, that was the driver for me to get involved with this medicine. Of course, my mom and dad met in the late 80s when they were
Hmm.
both working at a facility that was helping developmentally disabled adults find their path into the real world. So they were training people with disabilities. Got to think, this is the late 80s.
Yeah.
This did not exist really in modern society until 20 years later.
Hmm.
But that's where my parents met, and I want to just share that because it's a part of my DNA to want
Hmm.
to help people. It's
Yeah.
it's how I was raised. It is who I am as a human.
Hmm.
And I wanted to take all the pain and all the things that I've been through on my journey with addiction and other challenges, bring it to Mindful Meds, which is the company that I own today, and be able to help people with the medicine that we make.
Yeah.
And that's the mission that we've been on it is simply this mission to want to help people that are struggling. It's as
So,
simple as that. Yeah.
so when you got started, did you microdose or did you do the macro, the journey, the hero's journey, or whatever you want to call that?
You
Which
know
one did
what? This is a dead true story. So this mycologist gave me a bag of mushrooms.
you?
I
Hmm.
went to Walmart. I found this little pill press. It
Uh-huh.
pressed 100 capsules. I wasn't smart enough to use the pill press, so I had my buddy grind up the capsules and teach me how to basically press them.
Hmm.
And I sat for 2 weeks because there was no data and no studies that had ever been done on microdosing that I could find.
Okay.
And so I was waiting. So I got on these capsules. It's actually this product here. This is
Okay.
called the Modern. So it was 100 milligrams, one
Uh-huh.
1/10 of a gram. And so generally speaking, a gram is kind of the threshold where you start to kind of music and colors and things start to dance a little bit off the page.
Okay.
So 10 times that dose. Um, and I was just waiting for this moment. I was waiting for this moment where things changed. And I remember every day kind of going, okay, I didn't notice anything. I didn't notice anything. And then 13 days in, I had this undeniable thing that happened to me that was so different in any way that I had ever problem solved anything in my life. And I ended up writing in my journal a 3-page letter to my business partner.
Hmm.
And when I finished the letter, I picked up the phone and I called him and I said, "Hey man, can I just get 2 minutes of your time uninterrupted?" And I read this letter as if I was just speaking to you now. And it was
Hmm.
just so fluid and it was so, I had confidence and conviction. I didn't stutter my words. And at the end of that letter, I hung up the phone and I never ever talked to him again for the rest of my life. And this guy was
Really?
toxic. This guy was
Oh,
uh,
okay.
a dangerous, dangerous narcissist, and and so, but the teaching of this was that I had figured out how to problem solve something that would have been so difficult to problem solve. And so I circled it back to this medicine. And honestly, that moment changed my life because from there, I put together the very first microdosing study that had ever been done in Canada.
Oh,
And I
cool.
teamed up with a local friend of mine that had a background in psychology. We put together a baseline questionnaire analysis, and nobody could have ever have used mushrooms previous to this. And, I think there might be people that are laughing about this, but it was a citizen science project that we took as seriously as anything you could have taken.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that I was just trying to see if my experience was replicated in other people.
Mm-hmm.
Because from there, I knew I was going to build a business around it, but not until I actually saw other people's lives change.
Mm-hmm.
So I provided this exact bottle of medicine to 40 people. I taught everybody what I had learned over the 3 months leading up to that. And I was so excited to share all the things that I've learned. I'll share a lot of that with you today.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all got into a online chat forum. It was COVID. The Friday that I was supposed to do this presentation was the Friday that the world shut down. So
Oh,
I
wow.
had I had to pivot. And long story short, we ran the same questionnaire that they started with on day one, on day 42, after they had gone through the protocol. And I hired a company to tally the data and look at the way the needle moved in these people's lives. And it was enough to make your jaw hit the floor. We had 4 people come and film their testimonials. One of the 4 came out and said it saved her life.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. That was how this began.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. I have so many questions. So
Sure.
I my first question is, um, well, yeah, let's talk about some of the results. So what can somebody who benefits from microdosing? So like someone with anxiety, depression, whatever, who benefits from it? And
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you saw when you did this study? What were some of the benefits that these people experienced?
Yeah. So I think the big ones were the needle moved in less anxiety, less reaching for the numbing agent, whatever that was for people. Maybe it was cannabis. For me, it was cannabis. For many, it's sugar. Um, and so it was this, it
Did you
was
say
this,
sugar?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm a sugar head.
yeah, yeah, me too. But I'd say our client that has the most amount of success with this
Mm-hmm.
is simply somebody that is on this journey of wanting to become a better version of themselves.
Okay.
If I could water it down to just simply that formula, if that
Mm-hmm.
resonates with you, you are the perfect avatar for microdosing. And I want to
Yeah.
explain that just a little bit to you. So,
Okay.
if you're somebody that isn't afraid of going to therapy, this is for you. If you're somebody that is willing to use the other healing modalities, whether it's breath work, yoga, meditation, walking, going out in sunlight, getting rid of some of the toxic people in your life. If you're somebody willing to do those things, in almost every single case of microdosing that I've ever seen, those people have success. And here's why. Okay. The way that we have seen, people that have depression and anxiety have seen the world work is they go to their family doctor and say, "Hey, I'm struggling. I'm having this symptom and this symptom." And then they pull out the index of, I mean, there's 60 minimum, 60 to 70 different SSRIs,
Yeah.
antidepressants,
Yeah.
that you can choose from. In the US, I was looking at some data before this. I mean, we're talking between 30 and 50 million people in the US are on an SSRI or benzodiazepine.
Well, it's probably higher now because
And it's
it's a
probably
dumpster fire
higher.
right now.
And I want to share what I've learned about the difference between this medicine and SSRIs, if you're open to it.
Yes. That would be a
Okay.
good. Yeah.
So, okay. Starting with, psilocybin,
Mm-hmm.
completely non-addictive.
Mm-hmm.
Non-addictive.
That was going
Okay.
to be one of my questions. Yeah.
Now, mushrooms, they're amplifiers. And
Okay.
so what that means is it is a really good idea is if you're starting a microdosing protocol to work with a therapist or at least understand that some of the emotions, some of the things, the shadows that all of us have, right? The childhood traumas, the things that make us who we are today, a lot of that is really gently going to come to the surface so that you can process it and you can heal the root of what is causing the depression or the anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want you to understand that. So the root, the difference with an SSRI, and by the way, I have a sister that has struggled with mental health. She's found some benefits to SSRIs. I'm a type 1 diabetic, so I use insulin every single day. There is a place for this stuff, and if it's working in your life, hey, honestly, fantastic. But
Yeah.
for almost in my experience, there's been very few people that are having a good experience on this. And the best way I can explain it is it's almost like putting a band-aid over top of a bullet wound.
Yeah.
And it's incredible to put a lid on the pain that you're in and numb you out and freeze your emotions. And but the challenge with it is, and the reason people can't get off of these things without incredible amount of struggle for most, um, is because those emotions, when you take that lid off, it's still there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can't run away from it. So
Yeah.
temporarily it might be helpful, but those are the core differences between this medicine and an SSRI. Does that
Okay.
make sense to you? Do you
Yeah, it
want to
makes a lot
break
of
that
sense.
down?
I know a lot of people who take SSRIs, and yes, some of them do have had some benefits, but there's always seems to be a little bit of a cost on the other side. Oh, they make me tired. Oh, they make me gain weight. Oh, it's just like you said, it's like almost just like a dulling of the person. And it could be, and maybe they don't feel completely like themselves all the time, but then it becomes a new normal and they become used to it. And to
Yeah.
me, I think it's important to say that if you're benefiting from it, then yes, keep doing whatever you're doing.
Totally.
But
Totally.
to me, it makes me a little sad to see somebody to have to like dull themselves in order to get through certain things. I think it's really beneficial if you're going through something and you need like a stop. You need something. I think
Yeah.
that it's really, really good, but I hate that some people feel like that's all they can hold on to. You know what I mean? And going into like the mushrooms, the microdosing,
Yeah.
are any of the mushrooms addictive? Do you have that? It's not a dulling, it's a opening up more. So you say it's an amplifier. So is that what it means? Like it's like an opening or
Yeah, it's and it's such a good question. If
yeah.
I can just swing this to the real data, the real science,
Hmm.
because in 2018, one of the largest drug studies ever done in the world was
Hmm.
conducted. And I want to clarify this in case this somehow gets chopped up in a way. We truly consider this a medicine. But the
Hmm.
study that I'm about to share with you was a drug study. And what they were looking at was they were looking at the top most dangerous drugs in the world when it comes to harming yourself.
Hmm.
It was two-pronged. The other side of it was how much damage it's causing to the people around you in your community.
Okay.
And I love this one because what do you think the most dangerous drug in the world is?
Alcohol?
Alcohol.
Yeah.
And it's honestly, it's not even close. The most dangerous drug in the world, about 3 million people a year are dying because of alcohol related injuries. I
Hmm.
was almost one of them. And so yeah, that's the most dangerous drug in the world. As you go down the list, so heroin's on there, opiates are on there. you start to kind of go down and down and down, and then you kind of hit cannabis is on there, and then you go a little lower and caffeine's on there, and then you get to ground floor. You get to
Yeah.
ground floor zero, the safest drug in the entire world, mushrooms.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very
So I think that
interesting.
probably tells you a lot about why, and we can swing the conversation there too, as to, legalities and things like that. But I think before we get there, let's talk about the benefits because they outweigh the risk by about 1,000 times.
Yeah. A question though, just to be
Sure.
like, the de devil's
Of
advocate
course.
kind of.
Yeah, thank you.
Is the reason that it's the safest drug, though, have anything to do with the limited amount of studies that have been done, or it was just in this overall study that they looked at, what did they look at? You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Because
I'll
I
tell
think
you what.
there's going to be people out there that are thinking that in their head.
Totally. Let
Yeah.
me let me lead you to the resource.
Okay.
So we have put everything that I've shared with you is in a document that we have on our website
Oh,
that you
cool.
can get for free. 62 pages long. At one time, I think it was the most comprehensive microdosing guide anywhere in the world.
Cool.
I'd be shocked if it still was, but like I mean, this document was 400 hours of our time putting it together. So
Hmm.
all the resources are in there. Our website is
Hmm.
mindfulmeds.io. And at the bottom of the homepage, you can sign up for our microdosing guide. All you got to do is put your email address in there and then we send it to you. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, but
That'll be
I'll
in the show notes.
yeah. So that will lead you there. But the fascinating thing about this study was it was originally done in Europe.
Hmm.
And it was led by this professor called Dr. David Nutt. This guy has been on the cover of Maclean magazine. He's a very famous scientist and professor. He led the charge in this study. They replicated this study in North America and got identical results. So,
Interesting. That's
um,
cool.
yeah, and to give you an idea, today, Tina, every single major university in the world today is studying psychedelics and mushrooms.
Hmm.
I don't, it's actually easier to find the ones that aren't to the ones that are. Almost every Ivy League school in the world is really deep into studying this stuff. And before it went illegal in the war on drugs in the late, I believe it was the late 50s, 60s, Richard Nixon, the only reason this was illegal was because the Vietnam War was going on and the Americans started to wake up and realize, holy shit, our men are dying and coming back with all sorts of challenges. LSD was becoming prevalent and people were starting to explore in the hippie era and coming back and realizing, wait, this isn't right.
Hmm.
And it was because so that is the reason that this was illegal. There was 3,000 published studies before this became illegal. So
Really?
if you met a scientist that was born in that era and was an active scientist, and you asked a panel of them, 100 of them, were sitting in a room, tell me about the biggest blunder in your experience in science. It would be this. It would be the fact that there was 3,000 published studies that they basically pushed aside because of this war on drugs.
Hmm.
So,
That's
I mean,
crazy. That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
So, so moving into um, some of your products, I would like
sure,
to talk
sure,
about. So, as far as safety,
yeah,
so I think some of the questions that I'm thinking of that other people might be thinking of too is, can you microdose when you're taking other medications? Is there like counter implications where you can't take mushrooms? And what is the safety like long term? Is this something I know I'm very into herbalism and I know like there's many, many beneficial herbs, but sometimes you have to like rotate them and go on and off them. Is that
yeah,
something that you need to do?
totally,
Okay.
totally. I honestly like all functional medicine should be
Hmm.
used this way in the
Yeah.
sense that you find something, you stick with it, you got to stay consistent for 90 to 120 days.
Yeah.
And I think for anything that we take, it's always good to just hit the pause button, take a little break, and then you reassess. And
Hmm.
for the most part, we design products for depression, anxiety, PTSD, OCD. I can see some beautiful paintings behind you. I'm assuming that you've got an artistic flair of some kind.
I
Um,
have an artistic family.
Cool.
Yes.
So we work a lot with the creatives.
Mm-hmm.
But interestingly, on the other side of the spectrum, we work a lot with the professional athletes, the C-suite executives, and the really hustling entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
So people often go, well, how can that work for all of that? And I heard somebody explain this as the same way getting 8 hours of sleep works for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
The same way, and I just, to me, that was the best analogy I've ever heard.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to give your community.
Okay.
Every single Thursday, I open up my entire day
Mm-hmm.
to coaching calls. And I offer coaching calls for 15 minutes completely for free for anybody. Me and my colleague, Shannon. So just kind of depending who you resonate with. You can book a call. It costs $0 to have this call. I think every single case is somewhat unique in the
Mm-hmm.
sense that, yeah, but I will say this, for the most part, psilocybin is very safe to take with SSRIs and anti-anxiety medications. But where I've seen it work best is for people that are in a position with the end goal of wanting to completely come off.
Okay.
And if that's your goal, we can help design a pathway for you to get there in a very safe way. It is, it is something that we're probably, one of the most passionate pieces of my work is to help people get off of these SSRIs and these pharmaceuticals. So if you're in a place where you're looking for a path off that will help with the withdrawal symptoms, not everybody experiences these, but at least 50% of people that get on these have an incredibly challenging path to get off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and really we have, 12 to 15 different products. Half of the products that we have a microdose level of psilocybin, and the
Mm-hmm.
other half don't have any psilocybin in them. So if you're looking for a product um, that might be helpful for depression and anxiety, and a huge one in my life right now is women that are premenopausal and menopausal. I'm 40 years old. It actually is the number one question that we get in our business today.
Yeah, that hits for me. Yeah.
Yeah, we've developed this product with no psilocybin. It's called Brainbow. And the active ingredient in Brainbow is called Afron. And
Mm-hmm.
Afron is a patented saffron extract.
Oh,
It
interesting.
is 20 times the cost of psilocybin mushrooms. Luckily, it doesn't reflect that in our pricing. But this is a product that truly works. There's 3 million people around the world that are using Afron today.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're somebody that loves the science, the data, the research, and to know what they're taking, head to our website, explore it, poke around and learn. And then feel free to just book a call. But I would say the first step for everybody, and where I see the most success, is people that go, they download the guide, they spend 45 minutes and they read about how our product works and all of the things that I've shared with you today, and then some. It's 62 pages, but it's mostly illustrations. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not really that hard of a document to digest. Uh, there's a direct correlation between people that do the research and understand what they're getting into and the success rate of people with microdosing. In almost every case of anybody that's ever read
Yeah.
that document, they have a fruitful experience.
Yeah. I have a question. So,
Sure.
is there do they help with ADHD? Do you find does that ever come up for you?
Yeah, big time. So these two products, so the one that I was speaking about, the 100 milligrams, and lion's mane mushrooms. So
Mm-hmm.
I am speaking to you as a guy that has ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get the official diagnosis until this project began because I was, excuse me, wandering around my kitchen at 2 o'clock in the morning. I was so excited about what I was learning. I just simply could not shut my brain off. And so I went. told, did this the whole song and dance with your doctor, then did the test, then got on a call with a psychologist. He gave me a prescription for Vyvanse, and to this day, I've never filled that prescription. What I have used and what our community use is a very light microdose and then a high dose of lion's mane mushrooms. And lion's mane is the most studied nootropic in the entire world.
I take lion's mane.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so when you stack just an ever so slightly dose of psilocybin onto the lion's mane, you get Mother Nature's Vyvanse. It's
Okay.
completely not addictive. It is not yeah, I mean, I've never actually framed it that way. So like for, but the truth is that's what I have been using as a replacement for Vyvanse.
Hmm. What is Vyvanse? Because I don't know what that is. Is that
It's the same as Ritalin. I mean,
okay?
it's kind of the
Right.
modern day Ritalin, highly, highly, highly addictive.
Okay.
Um, it's one molecule away from methamphetamines. And
Okay.
if you have an addiction, and by the way, every single addict in the world that I've ever come across has ADHD.
Hmm.
When I went to rehab in 2016, out of the group that was there, 100% of the people had ADHD,
Yeah, that's not surprising at all. That's yeah,
right?
I could
And
that
so,
makes sense.
yeah. But the challenge with anybody that has an addiction and ADHD is you give them Ritalin or Vyvanse. The next thing you know, they're crushing it up in the toilet stall and snorting it up their nose. That
Hmm.
is me. I'm speaking about the reason that I didn't get on it was because I
Hmm.
was fearful that that would have happened to me. And
Hmm.
honestly, I think if I got on it 5 years ago, I don't think I'd be here having this conversation today.
Yeah.
Not that I'd be dead, but I just probably wouldn't be in the same place as I am today.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. This is
So there, yeah,
amazing. Amazing conversation. I'm excited to go explore on your website and download the document and like look into it. And I'm also curious about what you talked about with the I can't remember what it was called now, but the saffron
rainbow, rainbow. So it's this one here.
rainbow.
It's
Yeah.
it. This is a product we've never seen a product on it that we just cannot keep in stock.
Hmm.
I am telling you that the reorder rate on this product has been over 70%. If you're in consumer goods, I mean, you'll know that that number is just astronomical. This is
Yeah.
a product that truly works. It took us a year to develop this product.
What is
Um,
it? What does it work for though? Like when it comes to menopause, there's so many menopause symptoms. So like,
Yeah, so honestly, I'm so drawn to the studies.
hmm.
Um, Enhanced mood. So just
Hmm.
generally speaking, you're in a better internal place. So you're
Hmm.
not as wiry and prone to, the crankiness version that we all have. I mean, honestly.
Hmm.
And so mood regulation and anxiety becomes less.
Yeah.
REM cycle sleep goes through the roof.
Nice.
All of the studies are on the website, but those are emotional regulation is the biggest one.
Hmm.
It doesn't do anything that I'm aware of for the actual hormones, but it's the symptoms. It
Hmm.
works on the symptoms that a lot of women experience.
Yeah.
Saffron is Mother Nature's anti-anxiety
Oh
and
yeah.
anti-depression pill. And
Yeah.
I mean honestly, it is exploding across the world. The challenge with the saffron industry, it's the same thing that's happening in the mushroom industry, is it's so expensive. It's so
Hmm.
expensive that if you are getting a cheap version, there's a reason that it's cheap. Because
Yeah.
trust me, this is not something that you can source cheaply. It
Yeah.
takes an incredible amount of time and resources and energy to grow. But we've opted with this nutraceutical, which is basically this pharmaceutical lab is based out of Spain. They've learned how to grow the saffron, extract the fruits of it, and then turn it into what they call Afron. It's $5,000 a kilogram. And so like a pop can, I'm having a
Hmm.
Canadian ginger ale here. But you get basically this scent and it's $5,000. And
Wow.
so it is the most premium ingredient we've ever used. This stuff works and we can
Yeah.
ship it legally all around the world.
Nice. That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're going through menopause and you're losing your estrogen, it's automatically triggers anxiety. And if you're a person who already had like low level anxiety, you're going to have like more of a reaction to that. And that's what happened to me. And it was very unexplainable. Like I started having like panic attacks that were completely like there was nothing major going on in my life. I was like, what is happening to me? And that's exactly what it was. It was my hormones shifting. And then I had to find ways to control my anxiety, which is like a constant thing because when your hormones are fluctuating, it's like you don't know when they're fluctuating. So it's like you don't know how to keep that balance. So it's a very difficult situation. So being able to have I'm not surprised that that flies off the shelf because that if it's something that works and people are gonna continue, they're probably stocking their bathrooms with it.
Honestly, it does work. It works for men as well. It's something that I take every single day, and then I'll stack a microdose on top of it on some days.
Hmm.
But I've never experienced anything in 6 years of doing this and millions of microdosing capsules in the marketplace today, that is as effective as this product. And ironically,
Hmm.
it doesn't have any psilocybin in it. We do use
Yeah.
other mushrooms, so lion's mane, rhodiola, bacopa, ginkgo, and then methylated B12 is in here as well.
Oh, nice.
Um, but really, when it comes to giving people a breath of fresh air.
Hmm.
What you just explained is it's like almost like that feeling of just drowning and choking and just
Hmm.
exhaustion. And I think this is a product that can really help refuel the
Yeah.
body and the
I'm
mind.
excited. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna
I'm gonna
test it
send you
out.
some,
Yeah.
and then my hope is we can get back on a call and you can tell me about your experience and we can
I
maybe
would
share this
love
with.
to do that. I would love
Let's
to
do
do
it.
that because some of my worst menopause symptoms are anxiety, not being able to sleep. Now, before I went through menopause, I never had trouble sleeping, ever. Like I slept fine. I never
Interesting.
understood how people, like, I never understood people that couldn't sleep. And now so my sleep cycle is like one night I'll sleep for 4 hours. Then the next night, maybe I'll sleep for six. And I go back and forth, 4, 6, 4. Yeah, it's horrible. I can't tell you how horrible it is. So
Okay.
yeah, I have to nap. I do like yoga nidra meditations to get like
Uh,
that extra rest in. And so it's like I have to manage it constantly. That's what it feels like. So I would be a good test study for that.
For
That would
sure.
be,
And again, this is clinically studied. This
yeah.
isn't a rabbit out of the hat, us
Yeah.
chat GPTing how to create a product. The
Hmm.
reason that I've paid for this ingredient is so that we can share the clinical studies. And one of them is REM cycle sleep. And
Yeah.
so because you can really what it is your nervous system with this product goes to a place of comfort and you're able to regulate your nervous system. And a byproduct of that regulation is deeper, more fruitful sleep. And
Nice.
so we started with this product with the idea of what can we develop that would help people's nervous systems. And, a year later, so now it's been kind of 4 months in the market. So, but a year later, we brought this to the market. But it
Hmm.
was a lot of trial, a lot of research, and a lot of resources that went into developing this product. This works. And
Yeah.
I hope you try it. And
Oh, I
so
am going to try it.
whenever we wrap, I'll
Absolutely.
send you my number
Okay.
and get your details
Okay.
and I'll ship some down.
Oh, that would be fantastic. I would love that. I have one last question before we wrap
Yeah,
it up.
for sure.
And the question is, with your products, can you legally sell them everywhere, or are there some limitations?
Yeah, definitely limitations. So
Okay.
all of the functional products. So remember how I
Hmm.
said half have psilocybin, the other half don't?
Yeah.
The ones that don't, we can ship all around the world. So
Yes.
that includes the one that we've just been talking about, the Brainbow. We
Yes.
developed this because we wanted a product that we can ship around the world without
Okay.
any interruptions.
Hmm.
Things are moving really quick. I can tell you, Colorado and Washington, right now, I believe are the only two states that have completely decrimmed. And I don't know if it's legalized, but it's decrimmed.
Hmm.
Lots of cities around the US have. But the reality is we don't really, we don't want to mess with that, right? So we developed a product that we legally could ship and get you to the same place,
Mm-hmm.
just as efficiently and effectively. And to be honest with you, this is $57. So
Mm-hmm.
Canadian, which I believe is 40 USD.
Okay.
And I think for most people, at least I hope that is affordable for somebody that's going to try this for, 3 months,
Yeah.
let's say.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do start, I will say give yourself a window to try it for 90 days
Yeah,
because
you have to.
you do
Yeah.
you do have to because I think the fruits of it, that active ingredient needs to build up in your system, just like
Mm-hmm.
any functional medicine. You seem like you know your way around that world too.
Yeah.
Give it 90 days and just see
Yeah.
where you're at. I have not heard of many experiences of anybody that has done that hasn't had, um, a moment where they were just like, oh my God, I found it.
Yeah.
And just this moment of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just simply want to learn, head to the website, mindfulmeds.io. Go to the website, use it as a resource, get the microdosing guide,
Mm-hmm.
and book yourself a coaching call. It's completely free. Like I said, every Thursday I reserve to do stuff like this and to do coaching
Mm-hmm.
calls. And it's something, to be honest with you, it's the most enjoyable part of my entire job. So
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
them. And I'm grateful for this opportunity to come and chat and share. And thank you. It's been so nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I think this will be helpful to a lot of people. And yeah, maybe we'll do another follow-up episode after I test everything out and we could share and go deeper into it. But I really enjoyed talking to you. It was a lot of fun.
That was fun. Yes. Thank you, beautiful people.
Before we go, a quick and important note. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. I am not a doctor, therapist, or a medical professional. Nothing discussed in this episode is intended as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider before starting any new supplement, wellness practice, or making changes to your current regimen, especially if you are managing a health condition, taking medication, or are pregnant or nursing. Your health is your greatest asset. Please treat it with care. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a new one. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I'd love it if you could leave a review. It helps get the show in front of more people who might need this type of support. And if you're ready to take your everyday self-care even deeper, come join us inside the Soul Aligned Life Patreon. Every week, you'll get new self-care practices and tools to help reduce stress and overwhelm. Plus, we do a monthly reset to keep you aligned and supported always. You'll find the link in the show notes, and I'd love to see you there. Until next time, be sure to take good care of yourself. Love you. Bye.